You're listening to How to 20-something, the best podcast that helps both men and women navigate their 20s and learn how to adult across all aspects of their lives. We're going to focus on career, relationships, finances, fitness, nutrition, and all of the common challenges and obstacles a typical 20-something will face in this post-college life. I'm your host, Jess Diamond, and I am the CEO and founder of Jess Diamond Coaching, where I help young professionals get their shit together, gain their confidence, and own their life. No one prepares you for this adulting world, so allow me to help you feel like you are no longer a chicken running around with its head cut off and that you actually know what the hell is going on and what your next step to take is. Welcome to How to 20-something. Welcome back to another episode of How to 20-something, with today's episode actually being a recommendation from one of you, and that is what you need to do and even who you need to be when you move to a new city. I met two girls in a walking group at the beginning of this year, and it came up of what do we do, and part of what I do is podcasts. So I asked them, what episodes would you want to know? And funny enough, both of them had just moved to Charlotte. So they said, do an episode on moving to a new city. So here we are, because as you grow through your 20s, it is very possible that you are going to pick up all of your belongings and move somewhere new, whether that be a new city, a new state, or even a new country. You are bound to relocate at some point during this decade of your life. It could be directly out of school, a desire for a change of scenery, a new job offer, moving to be with the person you love, family reasons, anything. Literally any reason or cause that results in you packing up your bags, loading up a vehicle, and moving your entire life to a different location. Regardless of the reason, how you show up for yourself prior to your move and once you unpack and settle in will be quite similar. So this episode is designed to help you get your mind right about what actions you need to take and perspectives you need to develop in order to make this transition a lot easier on yourself. Because chances are you're moving to a city where you don't know many people. And the best way to make a city feel like home is to build up your community. Now, I've done several episodes on making friends, so this is definitely part of it, but there is more that comes with a relocation. There's planning and researching and organizing and searching for what you like to do and leaving your comfort zone. That all comes with this specific transition. I have personally experienced two major adult moves in my 20s. The first one was to Orlando, Florida after college because I got a job. And the second one was to Charlotte, North Carolina, which was a move for me because I felt so stuck in Orlando after the pandemic and was ready for a new adventure and to get the hell out of Florida. There are a lot of differences between my two moves, where the one to Orlando, I didn't have a single friend in the city. Adulting was so new to me, and it was the last place I wanted to live. The second was to go join my best friend at the time, because he had all these friends in Charlotte and looked like he was having a blast. So I figured, hey, why not? And I always wanted out of Florida and to eventually end up in North Carolina because the weather gives you seasons but not the extremes. That's besides the point. This was also a decision that I knew I was making as I was leaving corporate America behind to pursue my coaching business. There were differences in my schedule, my surroundings, my ability to just go home if I wanted to, my finances, my mindset, literally everything was different. But the desire to have fun in my 20s and build up my community were the same. So let's get into the pre-move prep work, cost-effective moving tactics, and how to start your life in your new city so you can call it a home in no time. And yes, that is a cliche. For starters, you need to research the different neighborhoods in the area and know what you're looking for. Hopefully this one is obvious for you, but there is more to consider with the neighborhood you're choosing. Do you want it to be walkable, safe, surrounded by people your own age? What's your rent budget? Do you need to find a roommate or two? How do you want to go about finding a roommate? I've used Facebook groups when I lived in Orlando, and the people you meet are pretty hit or miss, so do your research on those people too and meet them first, get their vibes before you decide to live together. You could also ask yourself, where is your apartment or house in relation to your work? If you're in office, how far of a commute are you willing to do? Is public transit important to you? Will you need access to a car? Do you have a car? My first job out of school was in the very, very outskirts of Orlando, so I made some sacrifices like a longer commute to be able to live in a walkable, younger area. I also barely made any money. I think my gross income for my first job was something like $38K, if not less. So I knew I needed roommates. And I found a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment just north of downtown Orlando and quickly found 2 girls to move in with since I had about a week to get all my ducks in a row before I moved. Then, when I moved to Charlotte, I didn't have a commute to consider anymore. But I still wanted my area to be walkable with restaurants, nightlife, a gym, and the grocery store, and I wanted to be around other young professionals. Lucky for me, Charlotte is filled with different neighborhoods that hold these requirements. But I did not take my own advice that I'm giving you right now and research these different areas because my friend told me anyone who's anyone lives in one particular area. And while this area is filled with young people, it is primarily filled with the younger side of 20-somethings, and I was moving when I was in my mid-20s. So I already made the decision that I'll be at my apartment for 1 more year and then explore different areas to move to with a slightly older crowd, while still knowing I want my area to be walkable, safe, and quiet. Heavy on the quiet. Regardless of what area or requirements you want for where you're moving to, you need to go tour the place before signing any lease. Kind of like you need to go meet your roommates before you decide to move in with them. You need to see the state of the apartment building, like if there's trash around or weird smells. Even the leasing office people should make you feel comfortable. I was considering moving this year, and I toured an apartment where the leasing agent made me feel so rushed that I hated my experience and immediately knew I did not want to move there. Anyways, once you know where you're moving to and when you can move, it's time to figure out the logistics of what you are bringing with you versus buying there, and how are you planning on transporting everything. This can vary based on your moving budget, and there are definitely cost-effective ways to move. For example, if it's your first adult apartment, you can probably pack up all your belongings into a car and then have furniture delivered to your new place. That's what I did with my original move to Orlando, and then when I moved to a different apartment still in Orlando, I had a friend with a truck who helped me go back and forth with my big furniture items, so my moving costs were nothing. I offered to pay him for gas and buy him lunch, but he denied both. Then when I moved from Orlando to Charlotte, my biggest move to date, I rented a U-Haul and loaded up my big items and drove the U-Haul myself. Which is terrifying that they just handed me the keys to a truck and were like, cool, good luck, see you on the other side. But I will say I made it in one piece, and then my friend in Charlotte helped me unload everything once I arrived. I think renting the U-Haul for an out-of-state move was around $800 with gas and everything, but it was the most cost-effective way for me to transport everything since I have a nice bedroom set that I wasn't willing to give up. So usually, if you have 1 or 2 friends, you can move without the help of movers if you're okay with the work effort required to load and unload a truck. When I was in Orlando, I made everyone who came to my birthday brunch load up my truck. And then when I moved to Charlotte, my friend and I unloaded my truck. So ask for help. And you never know. People might take a bribe or the option as the birthday present because it was the day before my birthday when I asked them to do that. So like I said, there are cost-effective ways to do it. You might have to get creative with what that looks like for you. Of course, you can always hire movers. There's even cheaper alternatives on places like TaskRabbit or Fiverr, so you're not losing an arm and a leg as you embark on this new adventure. Because then there are all of the startup costs of living somewhere new that you need to consider, like restocking your cabinets, your fridge, your pantry, paying for the rest of that month's rent and security deposit, and anything else that comes with living somewhere new. Moving isn't cheap, but it doesn't have to break the bank. I've even had friends sell all of their furniture and buy relatively cheap and new items after they moved, which is definitely an avenue you can take. I think with that scenario, you're going to want to crunch the numbers of what is going to be easier and more cost-effective, knowing that selling your current furniture isn't going to go for as much as you originally bought it for. So asking yourself if you're losing money on selling it for far less than what you purchased it for, plus the cost of buying new items, versus renting a truck and driving it over yourself. If you're moving across the country, or even to a different country, it might make more sense to sell it all, but I was moving a few states north, so it made more sense to keep my bedroom set and rent a U-Haul. Now, let's fast forward to move-in day. Once you move and get all unpacked and are ready to begin your life in your new city, it's time to explore, start making friends, and getting familiar and comfortable with your new environment. This is where it gets repetitive with making friends in your 20s. Because regardless of if you're brand new to a city or in need of a new adult friend, it's going to come down to the same tactics. You need to find what you enjoy doing and then find groups or other people that also take part in those activities. I was having a conversation recently with a 21-year-old girl who moved to Charlotte about 6 months ago, and her parents live an hour away. She told me that she hasn't really made any friends and goes home every weekend, and while it might seem obvious to you that her going home is preventing her from making friends, she didn't realize how she was unintentionally self-sabotaging her transition into adulting. She mentioned she wanted to get back into reading, so then we spoke about finding a book club to join, so you can read on your own but still make it something social with a very low commitment. So just make sure that whatever hobby you're waiting to get into or pick back up has the opportunity to involve other people, and then go involve other people. You can look things up on Instagram, as most major cities have social media accounts listing off things going on that week or weekend. You can join Facebook groups with the demographic you're looking to meet and search for groups or events in those. You can start your own thing, like how I started my self-help book club and I posted it in a Facebook group called Charlotte Girls in Their 20s, and this book club is still in existence over a year and a half later. You can look up Meetup, or I recently found out about something called Skill Pop, which are little one-off classes you can take that range from painting to developing real-life skills. That might only be in Charlotte though, although I'm sure there's something similar in other cities. I wouldn't be surprised if there was. Something else you can do is join a group fitness style gym just so that you go talk to people that are also healthy and active. Even networking events, although I honestly don't think those are the best ways to meet people because of how inconsistent they are. You never know who's going to show up. And you also don't have consistent meetup days and times. A better option would be to join a sports league or something that lasts 6 weeks so you are seeing the same people at the same time for the same reason on a consistent basis. Like how I've mentioned on a few episodes now that I joined an improv group where we met once a week for 6 weeks. And by the 5th week, me and 2 other members got food together and then went to go see an improv show. I'm not in touch much with these people now, but it was a good opportunity to be around new people and see them every week for a set time period. When I was in Orlando, I joined a kickball league as a way to meet more people. And I met some of the best, most supportive people, even though COVID abruptly stopped the season from completing. But what I'm getting at is it's being open to new experiences and not leaving every weekend so you can actually build up your community in your new city. When I first moved to Charlotte, I called it my year of yes, where I was going to say yes to anything I was invited to that I didn't completely loathe, or that cost a ton of money since I was newly self-employed. I didn't do this when I first moved to Orlando because I was under the assumption that making friends in a city would be just like in high school and college. And boy, was I wrong. It's a whole different ballgame out there. You go from constantly being surrounded by people your own age, give or take 2 or 3 years, to entering a different world where you're surrounded by anyone between the ages of 22 and 60-something. I have to help my clients with this realization when they first graduate and say they are wanting to find friends their own age, and I tell them, age doesn't mean anything anymore. It's who you relate to the most, who makes you feel seen and supported, who you have things in common with. One of my closest friends right now is 38, and we joke about her being a decade older than me, but we get along well. I think of her sometimes as my older sister, and come to her for boy advice and life advice, and she comes to me with her problems too. It's a very supportive and open friendship, and we're not even close to the same age. We're a little bit close, but we're not that close to the same age. It's definitely a weird life lesson to learn, but you realize how unimportant someone's age is once you graduate college and get more adjusted to adulting. You're groomed your whole life into believing that your friends need to be around your age. And while choosing where to move might be determined by that factor, it is not the end-all be-all to meeting new people and building up your sense of community in your city. The good news, when it comes to moving to a city, is that a lot of other people are also new to that city. I think there's a statistic that 100 new people move to Charlotte every day. We are known as a transplant city, but I feel like most big cities are transplant cities, which means everyone is looking for their own friends and to start their life in their new city. I know the day I moved to Charlotte, I went to a singles event that my neighbor, who I had briefly met, invited me to. And while there, everyone immediately asked each other, "How long have you been in Charlotte?" My response was like, "Oh, an hour?" And that got some wild reactions because I literally unloaded my car and went out to this event. Mind you, I had already brought my U-Haul up and slightly unpacked about 2 weeks prior. But my official move was that day. And now I ask other people that question, and for this city in particular, most answers are less than a year. So yeah, big cities have a lot of new people, all looking to get adjusted and settled as quickly as possible. And that comes in a sense of community. But other than researching where to move, being as cost-effective as you want to be with the moving process, getting settled in, and branching out to events in your new city, I want to help you adjust your expectations. This is the mindset part. Making friends takes time. Feeling at home takes time. This is a massive adjustment and a process that cannot be rushed. But don't give up. Yes, there will be times where you feel discouraged or that this is taking too long or why bother trying, it'll never happen for you. It's going to feel uncomfortable going up to someone who looks friendly and striking up a conversation, or exploring the layout of your new gym, or learning the best route to take to work so you're not late. But this discomfort and feeling discouraged are part of this experience. It'll help you grow and learn the ropes for when you go to move again later on in life. Moving is as exciting as much as it is terrifying. You get to reinvent yourself, your image, and who you want to be with none of the baggage or stigmas of your past shining through. It's healthy for you to move away from your family and the people you've known since before puberty, because while those people have your best interests at heart, they also keep you stuck in that time period of your life. They see you for the past you, where present you offers so many other things. It's why when you return home and are with your siblings and or parents, you all of a sudden resort back to 16-year-old you when you know you're so much more than that and more mature than that. It's a weird phenomenon that happens, but I'm telling you this because while it is scary to leave behind everyone and everything you once knew for all of the unknowns, it is so crucial to your growth as a young adult. Besides, you can always decide to move back later on. Just because you said yes to moving to a new city doesn't mean it has to be your forever city. I don't know if I'll be in Charlotte for forever. I do know I will not ever move back to Orlando, or probably South Florida, but moving is part of life. You'll even find that you're going to outgrow certain cities based on different experiences. For me, I outgrew Orlando because the pandemic made me feel trapped and I had to get out if I wanted to pursue my business. For my friend Sam, Charlotte no longer served her and her personality. She outgrew her work and her experiences here. For a client of mine, Karen, she realized that the city she chose is not actually going to support her business goals and endeavors. So she's deciding to move somewhere new as well. So just know that bouncing around is perfectly normal, and eventually you will find a place to settle down for a longer period of time. But your 20s are made for this level of exploration. You're not tied down to a mortgage or to a family yet, at least for a majority of you. And now, as I wrap up this episode, you know the mindset and the steps required to make moving to a new city as seamless as possible and to feel normal in your experiences, fears, doubts, and path. But this does conclude another episode of How to 20-something. If you liked what you heard, if you are planning on moving to a new city this year or just moved to a new city, if you know someone who's about to as well, then please pass this episode along. Share it with a friend, post it to your story on social media, tell me what you thought about it, literally anything that helps me know that you're out there listening. And as always, I can't wait to be in your headphones again next week with another brand new episode.